What major company do you genuinely believe won't exist in 20 years? Story 1. Etsy. Refusing to actually enforce the rules that their brand is known for, small scale, handmade, will eliminate them as they become yet another place for dropshippers. Answer. This is my biggest complaint about Etsy. I completed a longish survey for them a few months ago that, among other things, specifically asked if them allowing anyone to sell there made me more or less likely to shop on Etsy. The answer is less, and I also commented how disappointing it is that they're not still selling just small-scale, handmade goods. That was their whole appeal. You take that away and they're basically Walmart. Anyway, there were enough survey questions on that topic that it made me wonder if they're maybe reconsidering their current business model. I hope they are. Story 2. Here in Australia, I'd guess Target. Target got bought out by Kmart, and they've recently changed all their homewares and toys to the same cheap Kmart brands. Yes, we live in an alternate universe where Kmart is super fudge popular and the trendsetter in decor. As someone who grew up in America during Kmart's demise, it's just as weird to me. Story 3. Nissan has been on life support for the last 10 years. The recent merger with Honda seems to have fallen through, which looks like they are on the path to extinction. Story 4. Quiznos. From a couple thousand a decade ago, down to less than 150. There's one about a mile by my house that only exists thanks to SpaceX, Hawthorne. The SEC they leave, that franchise does with it. Story 5. As someone who used to work there, Petco, they keep making terrible decisions that piss their customers off. Oh, they also treat their employees like crap, and their animal care is a joke. Answer. Bro, I was so fudge pissed about them throwing fits about the refillable tubs for their brand of litter. I would fill up like 5 of those pink-lidded tubs like every other month. Closest Petco is an hour away. And then all of a sudden one day, well, you have to use the green lids. These don't work anymore. You couldn't even tell me that when you saw me walk in with a cart full of them? You waited until they were full and I'm at the checkout? They made me dump them and buy the green ones. Fudge Petco, their litter turned to shoot anyway. All hail Chewy. Story 6. I hesitate to guess. I grew up with Sears, Montgomery Ward, and J.C. Penney's as the biggest retailers in the country. Now they're mostly extinct. Walmart was the biggest retailer in the world when I left my job at Sears for one with more consistent pay, not commissions. The Kmart merger was promised to push Sears Holdings into the top 3 retailers to compete with Walmart and Home Depot on equal footing. Amazon was only an online bookstore at the time. Wow, how quickly things changed. Story 7. Walgreens. They've been bought up by a private equity firm. Now that firm is going to strip them for parts. They're already closing stores and they weren't doing great before the buyout. They'll be lucky to last 5. I'm not sure if they can make it past 10. Answer. Their strategy absolutely baffles me. They bought out Rite Aid. Okay, fair enough. But then they closed all those locations and didn't bother opening any locations. Every Walgreens I know is like immediately next to a grocery store. There is nothing Walgreens sells that you can't find in a grocery store for cheaper. The point of a convenience store is convenience. You pay more for the fact that the store is closer to you and open all the time. Except Walgreens isn't closer and it isn't open all the time. So, what's the point? Not the pharmacy. Not when every grocery store in Walmart has a pharmacy now, and online mail-in pharmacies exist. So, why would I ever go to Walgreens when Publix or Kroger is right there? Story 8. Office Depot and Staples have been circling the drain and trying to buy each other merge for more than 10 years. Definitely, one of them is gone pretty soon. Or else Amazon just absorbs them both. Story 9. Walgreens. Rite Aid is already going bankrupt. CVS is closing stores but will still be around as a major insurer. Answer. I work for Walgreens. A lot of people don't understand what is going on behind the scenes, and a lot of us employees don't know the full extent but know more than the public. It's not good. The only way I think Walgreens had a chance to survive is to switch to only newer store layouts where it's 90 pharmacy and close the rest. We are a Tier 4 store, means we are second highest sales tier, and we can't have more than 8 front-end employees at a time at 30 hours maximum. Our freezer has been broken for over a month now, and they are refusing to fix it. Our AC is 74-77 degrees at all times, and they won't fix it. Our registers are broken, and they won't fix them. We are one of the most profitable stores in the district, and they won't fix anything. It's all downhill from here. Story 10. Half the gaming industry. Most major players are now subsidiaries and are one mistake away from being dead weight. The titans of gaming that still have strength don't have much reputation to stay alive for no more than a decade. Answer: I will never forgive EA for the amount of talented studios that they eliminate through acquisition and termination. The developers moved on, yes, but that chemistry and magic died with the team itself. It'd be like if the Lakers in the 80s or Bulls in the mid-90s were suddenly broken up. Yes, those amazing players are still in the game, but the teamwork and effort put into building that just evaporates. Their work in greed and producing slop is definitely notable, but it's only half the picture for me. Story 11. I've read, though, a bunch, and I'm trying to think of a different one. I think Carl's Jr. is a goner. They are so expensive I never see people eating there. For a fast food combo, to cost $20 is ridiculous. Story 12. I keep saying Airbnb to friends. Their whole model started off good for them as a differentiated product, but as fees went through the roof and as regulation has started to kick in, their margins aren't the same. Their company also started in a very low interest rate environment, and they were able to grow their way to success. I don't think that's the case anymore. Their stock price has stagnated ever since their IPO. Answer: I remember Airbnb when it was just normal people renting out a room for beer money. It was a great experience and I met a lot of cool folks. But then, wannabe slumlords started converting entire properties into Airbnbs, and the whole model was doomed. It went from a cool way to travel to dealing with shady landlords with sketchy listings. It got so bad that cities clamped down hard on the insanity. Maybe with adequate regulation, the community-oriented vibe will come back in some form, maybe from some other company. I hope it does. Couchsurfing was pretty fun. Story 13. Ubisoft. They are basically a zombie company being floated by Tencent money. Just this weekend, their CEO made a bunch of utterly brain-dead comments that just reinforced how dead they are. It is really quite an incredible feat. I have never seen anyone so incompetent that they were able to destroy the brand and value of a multi-decade gaming empire and make it look so easy. The Guillemot family are fudge invalids. There will be case studies on their incompetence. Story 14. The novelty of dollar stores has completely worn off now that they no longer actually sell anything for $1. Answer: there are a lot of rural communities in the U.S. where a Dollar General or something similar is the only place nearby to get groceries. I used to live in a town where the closest major supermarket was about 30 minutes away, but had 2 Dollar Generals in town and another one 10 minutes away. While they suck, for a lot of the country they're the only option. Unless Walmart makes a small format store and rolls them out to all of the small rural towns across the country, Dollar General is going away anytime soon. Story 15. Any which catches the interest of a private equity hedge fund. You think Sears and Toys R Us were victims of a retail apocalypse? No, they were pillaged by hedge funds. Answer: I dislike to be that guy, but private equity and hedge funds are two different things. PE tends to be the culprit behind what you're referring to. I will say that PE tends to buy things that are not being particularly innovative or are on life support already, to either try to squeeze the remaining life out of it or get it back on? It's feet. I don't think they typically buy things that have much of a future on their own. Story 16. Buffalo Wild Wings. I don't have any info on sales numbers, but that place has been going to shoot for the last 10 years. Story 17. A major fast food company. Subway is my best guess. Too many locations, food is trashed constantly, prices keep going up, and competition is considered better. I don't have good feelings about any major social media either. That includes Reddit. Answer. Subway is kept alive by their predatory franchising practices. They are by far the cheapest national chain to franchise, by a significant amount. So, they get people who shouldn't be opening these franchises to front all the costs. And then when those people run into money trouble, can't pay off certain things or other things of that nature, they use provisions in the licensing agreement to assume control over that store. They will often then sell it to another more successful Subway franchisee, or it will be run by Subway corporate until they find a buyer. Story 18. Best Buy. Honestly amazed they still exist. Whenever I go there, there's usually no customers, and it's just sad. No way it lasts another 20 years. Maybe it will still exist, but it will only be online. No more physical stores. Story 19. Chrysler. They're down to 2 minivans. That's their entire lineup. No cars, no SUVs, 2 vans. I'd almost put money on Mopar as a whole, but I think Jeep is still doing okay. Story 20. Honestly, I don't think most streaming platforms will exist. It's been milked dry, and the fact that most cost $15 each has led me to other methods for the content. Story 21. A lot of the cable TV networks won't be around anymore. IDs say most brick-and-mortar retail will be gone as well. Most new retail will be online. Only very few new physical stores will open up to replace the ones that disappear. I believe malls will look very different in 20 years. Story 22. Office Depot Office Max are ghostly empty, limited choices, super high prices surprise they're still hanging in. Answer. Worked for one of those for years. The printing service is a huge draw and has great profit margins. Now that companies are directly selling ink subscriptions, it's going to be hard to see their ink business lasting much longer. So many people are going strictly digital that ink and paper are slowly but surely shrinking. At least they can still rip off boomers who will pay $250 to get the adware removed from their computer by some guy in India or the Philippines. Story 23. Weight Watchers. Absolutely getting taken down by the rise of the Ozempic-type substances. Just did Chapter 11. Story 24. Crumble Cookies. Overrated. Their company constantly gets health code violations, and people find mold and stuff in their cookies. Also, in my personal opinion, they're not that good. There's too much going on with some of the flavors. Some are just jerk, and most are too sweet. Story 25. Carvana. The model is pretty good, frictionless, online car buying. They've done pretty well for themselves revenue-wise. However, they've been committing massive amounts of fraud for a while. They have essentially a 100 loan approval rate, which means their loan book is astonishingly awful. They have insanely high loan delinquency rates, think 4x industry average, and have been taking huge losses. However, they've been using just about every sketchy accounting trick in the book to hide the losses, including insider trading, shell companies, you name it. It'll all come crashing down, eventually, and I think it'll happen soon. Also, their stock is comically overvalued. This wouldn't necessarily eliminate the company, but just a side note. For every one they've earned in profit, they've gained 139 in market cap. The CEO's father commits insane amounts of insider trading pretty blatantly, and this basically dictates their stock price. This report is a really intriguing read. Carvana, a father-son accounting grift for the ages. Story 26. Harley-Davidson. At best, they will be a clothing brand. They have cut off all their entry-level priced bikes, haven't expanded their market at all in decades, relying on old customer sales. And the quality is so bad that guys in intense MC I've talked to are switching to Victories and Indians cause they are tired of fixing them. Story 27. Chuck E. Cheese kids want to play in their phones, and arcade games are not a thing anymore. Plus, parents don't want to pay $30 for a horrible pizza. Answer: I used to think the same thing until my toddler's friend had his B-day at Chuck E. Cheese, and I was blown away. The company has absolutely kept up with the times and provides a thrill no phone can. It was a fudge casino for kids in there, and they have changed their model where you don't pay per play anymore. You can go buck wild on whatever games you want for a certain amount of time, still earning tickets, which are digital now, to get prizes, which is still extremely captivating for children to experience. It's a novelty that phones simply cannot provide. The food is so-so, but by no means shoot. They also have added trampoline parks into their offering, which are extremely popular for kids. They dominate the kids. B-Day Market offering affordable, all-inclusive options for parents, which, trust me, is not easy to find. The thing they still do that blew me away as a parent, though, is they still use the invisible ink number stamp with you and your kid, stamping you with a number and your kid with the same number. On the way out, they flash a black light to check your number. Matches your kid's number, ensuring no creep can steal your kid. It's a genius low-tech solution to a sick problem that I really appreciated as a parent. Chuck E. Cheese has staying power. I'm telling you. Story 28. I feel a lot of the retail and food service industry is going to collapse within the next 5 years, unless there is a major shift in the way corporations do business, shifting away from greed and profit margins at the expense of workers. People are running out of discretionary spending funds. As of last year, upwards of 60 of Americans were surviving paycheck to paycheck. This is completely unsustainable. If I were to start a business today, I'd focus on B2B customers and outside of the United States. Story 29. There's just no way Best Buy lasts another 10 years. Every store is dying. The salespeople are unknowledgeable about anything in the store. The Geek Squad are the only competent staff. Story 30. Print media in general. With the ongoing shift to digital platforms, traditional newspapers and magazines are struggling to maintain readership and advertising revenue. As younger generations consume news primarily online and printing costs continue to rise, many print media outlets may not survive the next 2 decades. Story 31. With the majors getting in on EVs, I think it is only a matter of time before Tesla becomes just an IP holder to buy. Musk can't compete with China or the big three when it comes to cost. And even though his OS will be better, the lack of quality in the physical manufacturing has been repeatedly documented. So you will have a cheap product with better quality control and a slightly less good OS mass-marketed and manufactured at scale. Not to mention the fact that Musk has pretty much alienated himself to both major political parties at this point in the US, and his EU sales dropped off a cliff. My question would be if and how long he can afford to absorb the losses at Tesla before he starts impacting his SpaceX investment. Story 32. GameStop. Steam and digital downloads have essentially took them out. Sucks because I'm a disc-only gamer. I still see them being popular somewhat, but people used to wait outside game stores for blocks back in the day to buy consoles AMD games. Now, you can ship it. Answer: it's sad because I still get their emails and I'm like, oh hey, I can spend $20 to get a newer title. Check stores in my area, all sold out. Expand search area, still sold out. At this point, I'm like, okay, can I just have it shipped? Odds are probably 60 no, 40 yes. If it is in stock, then the shipping is something ridiculous like $10.99 just to ship me a video game. At this point, I just give up, delete the email, and sigh deeply. I'll still go into the stores on occasion, but nowadays it's mostly just Funko Pops and other overpriced collectibles. I know that they are diversifying into the collectibles market to try and survive. But why spend $40 on a Goku figure when the anime store nearby is locally owned and sells it for $30? I was their target audience. But nowadays, I can't justify giving them my money when they can't keep their merchandise in stock. Story 33. Kohl's. I'm baffled as to how they're able to still be in business. The amount of inventory in those stores versus the foot traffic on any given day is wildly lopsided. Story 34. Tesla. A company entirely propped up by irrational markets and scared fund managers. The fallout will be life-ruining events for many retirement funds when it ultimately happens. The catalysts are already apparent, but Elon's worst is still certainly to come. Story 35. Kotaku days are fudge-numbered, and everyone in the gaming space know it or is straight-up delusional. Their sister site Polygon got bought out. An undead corpse is being puppeted by AI-driven clickbait farmers, and Kotaku has a lot of the same problems and rot that Polygon had. Oh, and did I mention virtually Polygon staff got fired or laid off? Unless Kotaku makes some drastic changes on how they do business, they won't last. Story 36. Xfinity and all other evil cable companies. I honestly can't think of anyone under the age of 55 who is still paying for traditional cable and internet. Pretty much everyone I know is using some variation of YouTube TV, Hulu, or another streaming service for cable TV, and T-Mobile or Verizon for home internet at half the cost of the cable company. I get some people want fast-wired home internet, but probably 97% of consumers don't care as long as it works. Story 37. There will be less and less corporations. In 20 years, I predict there will be 10 mega corporations owning 90 of everything. Story 38. Tesla. This company is so clearly propped up by meme stock status and delusion over AI promises. Those Optimus robots are fake as fudge. Elon destroyed this company by going MAGA, and it will never recover. Story 39. Lionsgate seems like a general target for acquisition at some point. Financially, they're doing all right, but they kinda don't do anything special compared to other production companies, and they don't have their own streaming service, just Starz, which is subscription and probably not a priority one for most people. So I don't think they'll go under, and the brand may or may not exist, but one of the big players probably just acquires them at some point. Story 40. Southwest Airlines. Once the leader in customer service, low-cost flights, and employee retention. All of these are out the window. A large hedge fund has acquired seats on the board and are now directing the destruction of the airline. In the past 2 years, they have stopped free baggage, destroyed their customer service, ruined their loyalty program, and their employees no longer see the point of providing excellent service, as the new management is too busy cutting costs and trying to drive profits to reward the loyal employees. There is no reason to use SWA over any other U.S. carrier any longer. They are not cost competitive, and the experience of flying SW is just like every other airline. I don't think there is any way that they survive 20 years. Elliott management will violation them and strip the company until there is nothing left but to screw the employees and sell the equipment. Story 41. Movie theaters. I love going to the movies so much. Just went yesterday to see My Neighbor Totoro with my family. Sunday afternoon, middle of the summer, successful blockbuster on its first weekend of release, and there was a sad little handful of cars there and just a few bored-looking staff. 25 years ago, when I worked in a movie theater, we didn't have time to be bored on a weekend in the summer. It reminded me of the last few times I went to the video store, or a new used tape CD, DVD, Blu-ray store, or the mall. I bought a VHS at Tower Records while the staff was actively tearing the place apart. I thought they were remodeling. They were gone later that week. I don't know if this is bad or just different, but it kind of hurts. Unpleasant sense of loss and unease regarding an uncertain future. Story 42. Movie theaters. Went to a movie a few weeks ago and it was 30 minutes of commercials, not trailers, before the movie started. With TVs getting better and surround sound, renting or buying movies feels like the future. Story 43. Subway. Ever since they got bought by private equity, their quality has gone way downhill and their prices have gone way up. They were never great, but when it was $5 for a foot long, who cares? It was quick and cheap. Now at my local Subway, the most expensive sub is $17. I can go to my local family-owned shop and get a better sub for less money. Their business model seems to want to punish existing stores and abuse their franchisees, and their app is complete garbage, crashing constantly, and you never know where the coupons will work or how much something costs because every store is individually owned and operated, so they can choose what to accept and what to charge. There are 3 stores near me, and they all have different prices for the same subs. It's confusing and annoying. Story 44. Unless they change course. Target, been an employee there for nearly a decade, was great when I started, but they just keep making foolish decisions and bleeding employees' public goodwill. Corporate enshittification doing its work as always. Answer. Target used to be a really nice place to shop as a middle ground between Walmart and places like Macy's or Dillard's. However, their proprietary brands, which were one of their biggest draws, have gone down in quality over the years, while Walmart slowly but surely moved into selling more middle-class brand options. I used to buy dress slacks from Target for my work. They were $20 a pair and made of a nice, heavy material that would stand up to wearing and washing. Now, their slacks are $55 and are made from a really thin material that I don't see lasting more than 2-3 months at the most. Target is just too expensive to justify purchasing from them anymore since their quality has gone down. Story 45. Gibson guitars. Extremely overpriced compared to competitors, no innovation, just endless reissues and relic Les Pauls that only appeal to rich boomers. Once they're gone, the company dies with them, I think. Story 46. Brick-and-mortar stores will continue to fail in favor of online retail. Older restaurants like Chili's and Applebee's. Cable TV will continue to decline. Story 47. Meta. The only thing they really provide is network effect. Everybody uses it because everybody else uses it. But there is nothing under the hood. It is increasingly obvious that there is no useful product or service tying that network together. Contrast this with Alphabet Google, which is in sort of the same business, but actually provides a number of valuable services. There is probably a non-zero number that most people would pay for access to everything Google provides if they switch to a user fee model, but I doubt the same is true of Facebook. Story 48. Mitsubishi, the car company, definitely won't exist in 20 years. It's incredible they are even still around. Story 49. I don't know if it literally won't exist in any shape or form, but I don't think Meta Facebook will be a major company in 20 years. Story 50. I genuinely believe that the Xbox side of Microsoft will struggle to last 10 years, let alone 20. They've spent an exorbitant amount of money on a lot of studios and publishers, and so far, there hasn't been much in the way of notable payoff. I'm convinced they're running at an operational loss that's being counterweighted by the 30 sales tax on their platform. I think by the time the 20-year mark rolls around, Xbox will have been absorbed into the Microsoft name, and they'll have been reduced to a publisher and nothing else. They've lost the hardware race almost every single generation, despite consistently having the most powerful base console. They don't know how to manage studios, and whenever they do drop a good game, it feels more like good luck than good judgment. Nintendo and PlayStation will be the only survivors. Story 51. The BBC. People have changed the way they watch TV, and the BBC is an outdated organization that demands money from people, but it can't afford to pay for the big sporting events that people want to watch. Plus, people are getting fed up with its holier-than-thou attitude while covering up the likes of Jimmy Savile. Story 52. I would be very surprised if many corporate-run restaurants exist in the next 20 years. This includes fast food. The current model does not work, either lowering quality to the point that dog food is prepared better and/or raising prices until you're offering your firstborn as sacrifice. Fast food gets the extra whammy when you add in all those coupons that make it so the profit on a burger is so low that you either have to sell $1 million an hour or lose money. So, either you're going to see a huge change in presentation or they will no longer exist. Story 53. I think the AI sector is heading for a big crash. CEOs make all these grandiose promises about how AI is going to usher in a tech utopia and lead to us colonizing space. In practice, it's mostly just burning through tons of electricity, leading to increased disinformation online and creating structural unemployment. Additionally, it's often the case that tech companies survive the first several years with venture capital and that only a few will actually become profitable. AI definitely has some legitimate uses in research, but it's massively overhyped by the tech bro wows. Story 54. OpenAI. Just like the 1998 bubble, there will come a point where companies realize they aren't getting the return on investment they were promised and suddenly look to dump it and hire back in-person candidates. Story 55. HelloFresh subscription model in general is weak AF. People are tired of it. HelloFresh IPO at over 20, now it's close to 2.50. It sinks steadily. Story 56. Steam valve. Once Gabin dies, the business will go down the typical MBA path, and the profitable company will die with it, with cheap cash grabs and dumb decisions that are bad for gamers. EA or Tencent will make a plan to buy it. Story 57. Meta. Way behind the AI curve, boomers are dying and nobody uses Facebook, especially the kids, and their business model of stealing people's data, repackaging and selling it won't be allowed or tolerated forever. Story 58. Probably Facebook, or at least the Facebook platform as we know it. Meta might still exist in some form, but Facebook feels like it's slowly turning into the next MySpace, hanging on mostly because of older generations, while younger users have moved on. Unless they seriously reinvent it, I don't see it surviving another 2 decades as a dominant social platform. Story 59. Facebook. No young people have Facebook accounts. WhatsApp might still be around, but Facebook will be all but dead. Tesla, bought by Ford or GM and rebranded. Story 60. Harley-Davidson. Passionate customer base is aging dying, and the current generation lacks the discretionary funds for their product. Story 61. Best Buy, unfortunately. They keep shrinking and trying to stay relevant, but people keep ordering on Amazon. TVs, computers, laptops, video games, audio equipment, physical movies, phone stuff. Story 62. Sirius XM Subway. Anything that traditionally went for the middle class, JCPenney, Macy's, etc. Crumble cookies. Don't know if that counts as major, but they seem like a fad. Story 63. Subway. They have been lying for years about the foot-long subs. Cold cuts are garbage. Too many better choices. Story 64. Uber in Europe. In many countries, they need proper licensing, so in the UK, they are just another private hire, pre-booked taxi firm, only with disgusting cars, non-local drivers, and half the price. The price and convenience of a single app for anywhere is their only market advantage. They can't keep underpaying drivers and subsidizing fares forever. All it will take is someone to do it better, being more agreeable to local council regulation and giving the customer more choice in terms of being able to pick a well-rated driver, using a proper rating system rather than 5 stars for acceptable, 4 stars or less to have Uber discipline the driver, who is actually licensed in the town they are in, and people will choose that option instead if it only costs a little more. I only use Uber when they are cheap. As soon as they get near taxi prices, I order taxis because I know I can engage with the driver properly and not need a shower afterwards. Story 65. Banks will be changed within 10 years. My sister is an executive at her bank, and they are actively working with engineers to design the software and AI to replace their tellers ASAP, actively working on eliminating bank tellers. She says the AI should be able to do anything anyone inside the bank does on computers. So all the desk jobs and teller jobs will very likely be gone in years, and this is a small chain. Story 66. Meta. They're burning money like mad on unprofitable ventures. They haven't created any new IP or products that customers actually want. Story 67. PlayStation. With exclusive games slowly beginning to go away, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the passing of at least one of the big console companies. Nintendo always finds a way to keep going, despite it all, and Xbox Microsoft doesn't limit your platform as much. Also, some of PlayStation's shoot practices, looking at the Helldivers 2 debacle. Story 68. Sirius XM. The use case for it is a relic of the past where cellular coverage was bad. It's amazing how they still hold on. Their growth is entirely flat, their costs keep going up, only buoyed by OEM licensing deals, Sirius built into new cars. It's a minor miracle they haven't gone out of business already. I think we'll see it happen soon as older people die off though. Story 69. Any large company purchased by a private equity firm, including hospitals, that and local pet vets. There are PE firms spree buying them in the US and jacking up prices. You can't go to the next town because they will own that one too and line price, but the name will be different. Vets are now forced to upsell you to unneeded services and tests. Good times. Story 70. If they don't radically reinvent themselves, I'd bet on Paramount. Legacy brands aren't enough anymore. The IP is aging, the strategy feels reactive, and they've struggled to define a distinct voice in a landscape where everyone is either niche or massive. The streaming wars expose just how fragile studio prestige really is when it's not paired with innovation. If Paramount keeps playing catch-up instead of choosing a bold lane like A24, or even Lionsgate doubling down on genre franchise play, they risk becoming a licensing library, not a living brand. The film industry won't die, but the players will rotate. And the ones clinging to nostalgia instead of evolving won't make the next reel because audiences are already tired of recycled IP. Story 71. Netflix. Why order a DVD in the mail when I can just go to the store and get one? Wait, what year is it? Story 72. Prezi and most presentation tools. The days of making presentations by hand will go to the wayside in favor of AI-generated decks. Story 73. Intel. It's really not looking good for them. And that just blows my mind. They were the biggest, baddest semiconductor company in the world. I can't wrap my head around the level of mismanagement that it takes to bring down a company like that. Story 74. This is a terrible thread for your ad to show up in. I just saw an ad for Mike's Hard Lemonade and was like, oh yay, good call. That shoot terrible. Story 75. SpaceX will be replaced by Space Y, and X, formerly known as Twitter, will be replaced with Y, formerly known as X, and he will still own it. Story 76. Apple. They haven't done anything remarkable since Jobs died, and they are getting smoked in the AI race. Hot take. But I think they could be disrupted and vanish like BlackBerry. Story 77. In 20 years? A few fast food restaurants that are well known now. Between the rising costs of eating out and the lack of quality you're getting from that food, I think it's going to catch up to a few of them in the next 20 years, maybe even less than 10 years. Story 78. Not a specific company, but dance clubs. My Gen Z niece and university friends don't like them at all. Story 79. Retail is dying. It sucks. Because buying most stuff online is awful and is getting worse. I could write a book about why, but it boils down to enshittification. Their costs are in warehousing and stock management, and becoming a drop shipping platform allows them to outsource all of that to China. But most people seem to prefer cheap, disposal, and probably knockoff plastic crap from China over goods that fit or work properly and last longer than a couple of weeks. And there's simply not enough demand to sustain in-person shopping anymore. Story 80. I pray to God it's Airbnb and every slumlord is stuck with useless multi-million-dollar apartment shop. They invested all those cleaning fees.